Good morning and welcome to As Goes Wisconsin, Wednesday, November 1st. Calvin on the board, Greg Bach with me in studio. Speaking of new mom, Kristin Brey is joining the show like she does every Wednesday at 10:33. We're going to play the good, the bad, and the you've got to be kidding me. Yes, whoa, Greg Bach. Try it again.
Yeah,
there we go. Excellent. Yes, Kristin will be joining us at 10:33. Hopefully, we will get a look at little Frankie Lou, see how the baby is doing. I highly encourage you to watch our live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter if you want to catch a glimpse of little Frankie Lou. So that's coming up at 10:30. Last week, she wasn't able to have the baby on because she was being a little fussy.
Kristin was?
No, the baby was.
Oh, gotcha. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
All right. So speaking of being fussy, we're going to start off this morning. I saw this yesterday afternoon. A state representative from Wisconsin, Deb Andraka, posted this on her Twitter feed. There was a meeting yesterday of the Joint Finance Committee, of which she is a member.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, she wanted to know why a tax credit to farmers wasn't indexed to inflation, but a tax credit for private school tuition was. So first of all, I like to think I'm moderately intelligent, but the list of things I do not know is long and growing longer. So I had to Google, what does it mean to index a tax credit to inflation?
And
a tax credit indexed to inflation, Greg Bach, is a tax credit adjusted for inflation. So the value of the tax credit goes up or down based on the rate of inflation. So if the rate of inflation is 2%, then a tax credit that is indexed to inflation will increase by 2%, ensuring that the value of the tax credit is constant in real terms over time.
Which makes sense.
It does make sense. But again, this tax credit indexed to inflation was done for private school tuitions, but not for Wisconsin farmers. And so Representative Andraka brought this up in the meeting yesterday. And Calvin, I believe we have a clip. Let's go with that.
I have a question for some of my Republican colleagues. Again, I'm still trying to make sense of what we're doing here. Just a few minutes ago, we declined to index the farmland preservation tax credit to inflation. But in Senate Substitute Amendment 1, we are choosing to index private school tuition deduction to inflation. So can someone explain to me why farmers don't deserve to have their tax credit indexed, but parents who choose to send their kids to private school do?
Now, there's a long pause here.
35 seconds.
A 35-second pause. As the co-chairs of this committee, Representative Bourne, Senator Marklein, and the vice chairs, Representative Katzma and Vice Chair Senator Strobel, just kind of looked around.
Answer.
And nothing.
They're just kind of, yep, I don't have to respond to you. I don't have to explain this.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. We're just gonna do this.
But here she comes back.
Guess there's really no explanation why we are choosing parents who send their kids to private school to have an index and farmers not to. We just literally made that choice to not index that tax credit for our farmers in our rural areas to inflation. So thanks. I suppose I have my answer in my non-answer.
It's remarkable. You really need to see the clip.
Yeah. At one point, Senator Marklein is looking around the room as if to say, are you going to say something? I don't know. Are you going to say something? What, you guys want to get lunch later? I have no idea. It's fine. It's fine. It's like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to watch because she's asking a simple question.
And a reasonable question.
Yeah. Why? Just
why?
What
is the difference?
What brought you to the decision? Was it financial? Was it, we're Wisconsin. We are a farm state. We are for farmers. We have a representative in Washington who believes he wants to work with the farmers. But this right here, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell farmers that, oh my gosh, see, like, this is what's happening. They're going to say, yeah, it's been happening for decades. Any chance they can, get one over on the farmers, they're going to take it.
Which is terrible.
Yes.
As you said, farming is the backbone of our economy in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just indicative to me of how little they really care about their constituents.
Yeah.
They just really don't care.
But they care about things like school choice,
Well,
which,
and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing that private school tuition should be indexed to inflation.
but that's coming from the school choice program where they're taking money from public schools and giving it to parents to spend on private schools. So it's a two-end, like, one, they're going to get money from the state to send their kid to private school, and they get to use it on their taxes. It's like it's just it, and it's not fair. And it sounds like such a second grader response, but you know what? A bunch of grown adults not being able to answer a question, pretty second grade too, in my opinion.
Well, it was like watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off when the teacher is standing up in the classroom going, anyone?
Bueller.
Hello, Bueller, anyone? But there is no embarrassment.
No,
They're not embarrassed by this.
They don't have to be embarrassed. They don't have to care.
But that's why you need to call your representative.
Agreed.
Respectfully, don't swear at them.
Mhm.
Don't be argumentative, but give them a call. And if you're not sure who represents you, go to myvotewi.gov and you can put your name and your address in there, and that will bring up every single elected official who represents you in your district. I highly, highly recommend you take advantage of that.
From your council member to your senator.
Right? It covers them all.
Yep.
And super easy. Again, myvotewi.gov, and ask them why.
Yeah.
Ask them why the private school tax credit is indexed to inflation, but not a tax credit adjusted for inflation for our farmers. I might be crazy, but it seems like one group might have a more powerful lobbying arm than the other.
You know what, Jane? I think you may be right.
You think I'm onto something there?
I mean, if not the yeah, the lobbying definitely, but also, you parents knocking on your door telling you like, we want this, and you don't want to disappoint the parents. So you're like, they show no interest in caring about the farmers. And school choices are one of their hot button issues.
Right.
So of course they're going to do whatever they can to make it seem feasible, sexy, and awesome. And farmers, they get the tax credit, but whatever.
Well, and here's something else that came up, and this is in the New York Times from this morning. If you wonder what our lawmakers are doing, 2 Republican state lawmakers from Wisconsin, Representative John Plumer and Senator Corey Tomczyk, introduced a resolution October 18th, making a brandy old-fashioned the official Wisconsin state cocktail.
I already thought it was.
The Wisconsin official state drink is milk, but the brandy old-fashioned is now at least introducing this resolution to make it the Wisconsin state cocktail. Mr. Plumer said, quote, in an interview, if you go to any other state in the country and order brandy anything, they look at you funny.
It's actually true. I have a story about that.
But I just thought, how has this never been done before?
Yeah.
It is a tongue-in-cheek resolution, and I've had a couple of calls from people, don't you have more important work to do? But I don't think we do.
You heard that. Say it again.
Don't you have more important work to do? But I don't think we do. This is what makes Wisconsin unique.
I don't have a response to that statement. First of all, resolutions are not tongue-in-cheek. They hold certain sway because brandy old-fashioned, brandy, like all those things, like you're usually lobbied on behalf of people to make those things happen. But just to make it the official state drink and to say it's tongue-in-cheek, that is a dumb thing to say out loud. And then to say there's not more important things to do, and that's who we are. You just, one, you make it seem like there's nothing going on in the state, and two, like we're a bunch of podunk drunks. Ugh.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. You can call, you can text. I just want to know if I'm the only one whose head is kind of exploding over this.
I mean, I didn't know until you showed me. When I read the actual quote, that was big. I will say he is correct though. The brandy thing is odd to other people. I was in Canada a couple months ago and they had a bourbon old fashioned, and I said, "Oh, I'm surprised they don't have a brandy old fashioned." And my brother-in-law said, "What are you talking about?" And I explained it to him. He goes, "Nobody does that." I'm like, "We do." And Wisconsin's one of the top consumers of Korbel brandy because of that. And then he said to the bartender, he goes, "Have you ever heard of a brandy old fashioned?" And he goes, "No." And then my brother-in-law looks at me and goes, "See," I'm like, just because you don't know doesn't mean it's not a thing.
I agree with you. It
Yeah.
is a very uniquely Wisconsin thing.
It's delicious.
But if we're going to talk about things we drink that could use some attention, maybe our water would be a good place to start to focus on.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit more valuable. They sound like they're a bunch of frat boys just hanging around at the Capitol going, I don't know, let's name a Wisconsin state cocktail. It'll be fun.
I like the hiccup. I like the hiccup you
Thank
put in
you.
there. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of things that are more important. Childcare,
PFAS.
PFAS, CAFOs,
Yes.
fecal floods.
Yes.
Third day in a row.
Oh, nice.
There are a ton of things we could be doing right now, and if this person represents your district, remember that they care more about making booze drink proclamations than they do about the area in which they represent.
Or helping our farmers.
Yeah.
I mean, myvotewi.gov.
Get those phone
I
numbers.
can't say it enough. Myvotewi.gov. Go to that website, see who your representatives are, and then give them a couple friendly phone calls. Again, the co-chairs of this committee that just indexed inflation for private school tuition, but not for farmers, Representative Bourne and Senator Markline are co-chairs. Representative Katzma and Senator Dewey Strabel, are vice chairs. So I suggest that if they are your representatives, you should reach out and say hello.
And ask them questions.
844-967-2789. We're coming up against the break. We will be right back. Stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristin Brey. Calvin on the board. Greg Buck with me in studio, and you at 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Just a few minutes from now, around 10:33, Kristin will be joining us from home. We're going to do a round of the good, the bad, and the you've got to be kidding me. It's a pretty incredible story. I shared it with Greg yesterday. It's pretty remarkable. Right now, though, we're talking about Representative Deb Andraka. If you're a farmer in Wisconsin, you should be highly annoyed.
Or just totally not surprised.
Completely
Unsurprised?
unsurprised.
Unsurprised?
That yesterday, during a meeting of the Joint Finance Committee, Deb Andraka asked why a tax credit to farmers wasn't indexed to inflation, but a tax credit for private school tuition was. And her reply was dead silence.
35 seconds.
35 seconds of dead silence when she asked her Republican colleagues why they went with the private school tax credit, but not the tax credit for farmers. She got absolutely no response at all.
And honestly, like, if you're listening to this right now and you got opinions on this, call 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY, because we can't be the only ones in this area, state, city that's
outraged,
surprised, shocked, and it just and also embarrassed and disappointed. Those two things as well. I'm going to throw in embarrassed and disappointed because when those individuals go for their reelection, they're going to go to farms.
Yes,
they're going to go to the local diner. They're going to go to all those places where
I work for you,
and those farmers are going to put their hands in their pockets and go, nah, you don't. So, like, I'd love to see more farmers run for office. I know they have their farms. I'm not saying do it. I understand why you can't, but more farmers running for office. Oh, it
would certainly bring a much needed perspective, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm wondering how many farmers we may or may not have serving right now. That's a question I can find out. But yeah, I don't know. It just, at this point, yeah, they have to be not shocked and not surprised.
I think it's just worth watching the video to reinforce the attitude of some of our lawmakers. And I don't have to answer that question because I don't like it.
No,
I'm not gonna.
I'll outwait you.
Yeah, I'll just sit and twiddle my thumbs and we'll hang around. And it's so disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's how they view us as their constituency, it's not good.
No, it's not.
It's not good. And then, of course, on the plus side, well, at least we have a resolution to have a brandy-based old fashioned as the official Wisconsin cocktail, because that is the important stuff we need to cover.
We did it, folks.
Well, it hasn't been approved yet.
Oh, sorry.
There's just a resolution for that, so let's not get too excited
I don't
about
want
it.
to jinx anything.
But that's what they're focusing on.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yay, well done. And that's Representative John Plumer and Senator Corey Tomczyk, who introduced this resolution to make the brandy old fashioned our official state cocktail. He did admit, Mr. Plumer said, I did have a couple of calls from people. Don't you have more important work to do? But I don't think we do.
Nope.
This is what makes Wisconsin unique. Yeah. 844-967-2789. We're going to move on from this after 10:33 when Kristin joins us for the good, the bad, and the you've got to be kidding me. Coming up at 11 o'clock, Monique Minkins is the executive director for the group called End Domestic Violence Wisconsin. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to get them on. Today's, the first day after the end of October.
Yeah.
But they came out with a report recently that has some really, really disturbing numbers about the number of domestic violence cases in Wisconsin and where they're happening. And it's not necessarily only in urban areas that you might think this occurs.
No, I mean, I have to imagine that happens everywhere. And
tragically, it does.
Yeah.
And then I sprung this on Greg, but at 11:33, we're going to reveal something really shocking.
Okay. All right.
I couldn't believe it when I found out that that Greg likes doing this.
Oh, right. Okay. The phrasing has now just made me sound creepy.
If the hobby fits, I don't know.
Oh, okay. You know what? We'll talk about this later. We will talk about this later in the show, and I can't wait for people to just be so unmoved by what this is. And also, I'm not a creeper, anybody.
He's not a creeper.
And the thing I do is helpful.
Yes, it is.
So there you go.
Yes, it absolutely is. So that's coming up.
So ha ha.
At 11:33, Greg's big secret, and then you can share your big secrets as well, as far as things that you like to do.
Yeah. Do you know what?
That are, I don't know. I find it a little odd.
Do you know what I didn't like doing this morning?
I have driving to work.
Removing my car from a shell of ice.
Oh, did you not park in the garage?
We have to. I have to. This is my job, and because it's my stuff. I have to take all the stuff out of the garage. I have to clean the garage or just straighten it up so there's enough room for both cars comfortably. Because right now,
is it stuffed?
It's not stuffed. Actually, we could probably put 2 cars in there, but it would be very tight to get them out. And I don't want to do that. And so this is my doing. I will handle it this weekend. But when I woke up this morning, I thought, oh, there's some snow in there. And I did that thing where you like run your hand to get the snow.
Yeah.
And it's just bumpy.
Yeah.
Hard ice. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm now starting my car
so you can melt it off.
Exactly.
So you can melt it off.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Fox Valley got almost 5 inches of snow, 4 inches in the suburbs around Milwaukee. It was practically raining snow yesterday afternoon, right around the time that the trick-or-treaters were supposed to be going out. It was crazy. So that really heavy, wet, lots of moisture in there.
Yeah.
It was that kind of, and then it froze overnight solid. So, all right, you're going to be busy this weekend cleaning out that garage.
Oh yeah.
Stay with us. We are coming up against the bottom of the hour news. When we come back, new mom Kristin Brey will be joining us. I hope you will stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristin Brey. Calvin on the board. Greg Bach with me in studio. And joining us on the live stream from home, Kristin Brey. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I am good, but I did not sleep great, so we will see how quickly my brain works this morning.
All right. Was it just a rough night with the baby, or?
It wasn't even that she was rough. I just couldn't, she woke up at one point and I just couldn't, I never fell back asleep. So sometimes you just can't turn your brain off.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yep.
How is she doing?
She's good. She's downstairs right now with my sister-in-law, her Aunt Megan, and so we'll see if we hear her cry. But I've armed her with a bottle, so
Okay.
we'll see if that can subdue her if possible. Otherwise, we may get a crying baby in the background.
Hey, we were always looking for new background music. That's absolutely fine. Not a problem.
Jane will take Frankie any way she can get
Yes,
her.
I absolutely will. So I'm gonna come and force myself on you this weekend.
That's good because Mike's going to the Packer game, so I
Oh, he
will be, and
is?
he's going up on Saturday. They're going to spend the night up at the casino, you know, boys trip, and then they're going to the game on Sunday. So I will be here. I will be here trying to uh find things because this week we got a built-in into our living room, which looks
Okay.
great. But do you guys ever know the experience of when you try to clean up because there's a new, like, we're trying to get reorganized, like new things are going here and things just end up in boxes of like my AirPods or my nursing bra or the things that you need on a daily basis that then get put in a box somewhere as your attempt to clean up. And then you go to find it and you have no idea where it is.
Where
And
it
you
is?
spend like
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes trying to find the thing that you need. That's kind of like the mode that I'm in right now. So I think this weekend will be a decluttering of sorts
Yeah.
as much as Frankie will let me.
Well, I will be there so I could keep her entertained while you try
Perfect.
and find
I love that.
your nursing bra.
I'll take care of the baby. You work.
You go
Yeah.
do
You go do the things that you do get done. I'll just watch the baby.
I'll just hold her and stare at her and all that fun stuff. That sounds good. All right, we're gonna do the good, the bad, and you have got to be kidding me while you are here with us, Kristin Brey. And this jumped out at me, and I kind of feel badly because I can't believe I agree with this person on anything. But Missouri Senator Josh Hawley wants to get money out of politics.
You know who else has said things along those lines is Matt Gaetz.
Yes.
He's had some fiery floor speeches talking about the corruption and money in politics. That again, it's like, wait, what? We agree.
I
you
know.
poofy haired pompous
Big
child.
forehead.
I was going to say the only thing
Big-
he and I have in common are our forehead lengths. They go far back.
Yeah,
But tell me more. I did not hear this about Josh Hawley.
yeah. This is from CNN. Senate Leader McConnell bluntly warned Republican senators in a private meeting yesterday not to sign on to a bill from Josh Hawley that is aimed at limiting corporate money bankrolling high-powered outside groups. McConnell told them that many of them only have their seats because of the super PAC he has long controlled. So that means that they're going to crumble.
Yeah.
Hawley will crumble.
And this
Yeah.
is not, I'm not making fun of what happened to Senator McConnell a couple months ago, but he isn't the most fiery person. So it's that thing of like, he's coming at you with that grandpa voice, but it's real threatening. You're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all right, we are sorry. We will do nothing. You will end us.
Oh, absolutely. In an interview, Josh Hawley defended the bill. He said corporate influence should be limited in elections. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong as an original matter. I think it's warping our politics, and I see no reason for conservatives to defend it. My brain can't take this.
Is there more support besides him? Like, this is actually something that we should be applauding, right? As far as no matter who
Oh.
it comes from.
So, according to a list of senators obtained by CNN, McConnell singled out a number of lawmakers: Mike Brown of Indiana, Kevin Kramer of North Dakota, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Joni Ernst, Iowa, Roger Marshall, Kansas, Susan Collins of Maine, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Lindsey Graham, Eric Schmidt of Missouri, Ted Budd of North Carolina, J.D. Vance of Ohio,
What?
and our very own Ron Johnson.
They
These
all
are all people who
support this?
support this bill.
No, apparently, yeah, because McConnell singled out a number of lawmakers who have benefited from his super PAC over the last 3 cycles, just to kind of say, you owe me, kids. We helped get you where you are.
This story wins the award for best faces that's made us all make. Like everyone, all 3 of us have been like,
What?
like just pure like shock and horror.
In 2018, Josh Hawley got more than $20 million from McConnell's PAC.
Wow.
I mean,
I am just stunned and amazed that
That he
They
had the
would-
guts to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, we'll see what happens now. Now that Grandpa Mitch has laid down the law,
Yeah.
I can't see that this is going to go anywhere. It would be wonderful if it would. We talk about this all the time on how money and politics has just corrupted the entire process, and it doesn't work for any of our benefit as constituents.
No.
No, it only works for the lobbyists and the corporations that are benefiting from it. I think I heard you guys yesterday talking about taxes and like the tax lobby, as far as like it's in their best interest that you continue to have to pay to get your taxes done.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of like every other country where they just send you a bill and they're like, this is how much you owe. But
Yeah.
instead, it's like, no, we kind of have an idea of how much you owe, but we're gonna make you do all of the work. And
Yeah.
if you screw up, oh God. Oh, this is my brain, my mom brain. If you screw up, you are on the hook for it. It's your problem instead of us being the government knowing how much you owe.
Well, and as we were talking about yesterday, it is the IRS wanted to build a place on their website for people to file their taxes. So you don't have to hire someone. You don't have to hire an outside accountant. You don't have to go to H&R Block. You don't have to do all that stuff. And which seems to me like it would be a good thing unless you happen to work in that industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's another John Oliver reference I make. You think like, yeah, this makes so much sense. And as soon as they lay down all of the details, you're like, of course they're spending tens of millions of dollars lobbying every year to make sure that it's never easier for us, never cheaper for us. I
Right.
mean, I was saying about this. I mean, it just seems like every year our bill to H&R Block goes up dramatically.
Yes.
Like not $50. Like all of a sudden, like that'll be $400. I'm like, but why? They're like, because you have the safety, because you get the service, and of course, do you want this thing that if we find differences or problems, will be protected and you won't? Of course we do. And then it's expensive. It's like, I just want to find a guy or a woman, somebody who's like 70, who I'll just give them all this stuff. Here's some money. Here's a bottle of something. Do my taxes. Thank you.
Let
I
me
think
know
those
if you
people
find that
exist,
person.
Greg.
They do. We tried it once. It failed horribly.
Oh,
We didn't get a problem with taxes. Like we were fine with the taxes. It was just we were living in Racine at the time. He lived in Milwaukee. We had to go back and forth, and it just became at the end of the day. And then he ended up having to use the software that cost us money anyway.
Oh, boy.
oh man.
So it just ended up being a big waste of time. I want a guy. I just want a guy.
Just a guy. I just need a guy. All right. Good, the bad, and the you've got to be kidding me with Kristin Brey joining us from home. Moving on to the bad. And we've talked about this before, Greg, that sometimes there is so much news that we can't even address everything and things get lost.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple more mass shootings in this country,
Yeah.
tragically. One was in Maine, in Lewiston, killed 18 people, left 13 more injured. Months before this happened, people were voicing their concerns about his mental health.
Mm-hmm.
This happened also in Louisville, Kentucky, about a year before Connor Sturgeon gunned down his co-workers at a bank in April. Some people close to him knew he was having problems. And yet they were both able to buy guns. And when we have these mass shootings, at least some of our lawmakers always seem to say, well, it's not the guns, it's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we don't fund anything to increase or improve our mental health services. And then it's this cycle that just never, ever seems to end.
Yeah. Yep. And they were made aware there was a problem, like going to check up on people, doing wellness checks, things of that, welfare checks, wellness checks. It's just piled onto the frustration that's become this problem in our country. And I don't I don't know. I wish I had something profound to say. I do not.
Well, and it's just in this one instance, in this shooting that happened in Maine, he was in the Army Reserves, and there was follow-up between local police and the Army Reserves over his apparent paranoia,
Yeah.
his vocal threats to shoot people. He was acting aggressively in recent months. He was never taken into protective custody or judgmentally incompetent. No one ever took his weapons away. And again, I just think this is indicative. We have to take some actual concrete steps.
Just some
Well,
common
at
sense
least
steps.
even just with the mental, like, put your money where your mouth is. You think it's mental health and that's what you're saying it is, fund it. If we didn't do it in this state, the year of
Nope.
mental health, that didn't happen because that's just not what the priority was in the final budget, right? Even though, I mean, obviously the year of mental health was coined by Governor Evers, but regardless of the talking points that the Republicans in our state have when it comes to gun rights, um, you know, put an armed police officer in every school,
Arm the teachers.
arm the teachers, like make the security doors stronger,
Mhm.
but it's still mental health. It's not the
Yeah.
guns, but we're
Right.
not going to actually fund mental health.
Yeah, exactly. We have Bill from Economwalk on the line. Good morning, Bill. Thank you for joining us. What do you want to say?
As a person who owns a lot of guns and uses them competitively and for the outdoors and never on people, it's simple math. More guns, more deaths. That was spoken to me by my father before he passed away. And Scott Walker was pushing concealed carry. And he said, Bill, after I'm gone, the country is going to turn into Dodge City. Well, we're living in Dodge City as we speak. And these people who can't comprehend if you have more guns, you'll have more killings are the problem. It's not even the gun. It's their intelligence or lack of to understand that the more, it's kind of like, can you imagine if you managed alcoholism like that? Can you imagine if you managed a drug program like that? By saying, well, the way to cure this is more drugs or more alcohol. No, it's not. Same way to cure with guns. We have to have a license to drive a car, and we should. If you want to carry a gun, I'm all for it. But get 40 hours a year of training, carry insurance, and renew your license every year. And you're welcome to exercise your Second Amendment right. But it doesn't say in the Second Amendment, all people shall have guns.
Thank you so much, Bill. And again, you are a gun owner, and I think a lot of people, a lot of gun owners like you agree with that. It is the extremists who are like the guy from Oklahoma that Jon Stewart interviewed about when will more guns make us safer, because it hasn't happened yet. I just think a lot more people agree with Bill than agree with these free-for-alls, and everybody should have a gun anytime for any reason. All right,
So
we're up against the break. We will be right back. Stay with us. Kristin Brey is here. You are listening to As Goes Wisconsin. Stick around. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane McNair in for Kristin Brey. Calvin on the board. Greg Bach in studio. Mama is with us. Kristin Brey joining us on the stream. You can always watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter if you want to check in and see how things are doing. No Frankie Lou today. She is being coddled by her auntie.
her auntie, yes, her
Auntie
auntie's up
is
from
here.
went to Shania Twain last night. She's up from she lives in Chicago or outside of Chicago, and so her and some of her friends went to Shania Twain. And so she stayed at our house last night. So now she's getting her snuggles in with
That's
Francis
nice.
Louise.
That's fabulous. We were doing the good, the bad, and you have got to be kidding me. And we move on now to the you've got to be kidding me, especially for this time of year. Halloween was yesterday. It seems kind of perfect. This is from NBC News. Air BnB and the owner of a Michigan rental that's called The Castle is being sued by a group of 7 women who stayed there. This happened in July for their 50th high school reunion. So this is an old home. It looks kind of spooky. It's got a turret room and all that stuff. And apparently everything was great for the first 3 days. But then on the evening of July 26th, 2 of the senior women staying in the turret room were shocked awake by screeching noises and dark shapes moving along the walls. They ran into the hallway, slammed the door shut, tried to seal it up with blankets. Right after that, another bat came screeching down the hallway. More bats followed. The women ran to the stairs, found it consumed with bats. More and more bats began entering the living quarters. They were coming down the old walls, entering through the gaps in the baseboards. The night was littered with screams that could be heard from one room to the next to the next.
We should have spooky music playing right now, and you should be like a Vincent Price type, like.
We just finished watching The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. It's all based on like Edgar Allan Poe spookiness, and like without giving too much away, this feels like one of the death scenes in that movie, that like death by 1,000 bats.
Oh,
And sounds like a terrifying cinematic experience of just being consumed by flying rodents. Oh my God, I have like the goosebumps.
It gets worse. The bats got entangled in some of the women's hair. Some of them were hit by the bats. Others were bitten by the bats.
Please get on the live stream right now and watch this happening, people.
It didn't end until dawn when the bats retreated to the attic.
Tell the best part, though.
Oh, God, it's just... so they found a large colony of Michigan brown bats living in the attic. The exterminator allegedly found multiple inches of bat guano caking the floor, as well as bat urine running down the basement walls. The exterminator estimated the colony had been there for years.
I think I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. Oh my God.
So, yes, they're getting sued. Air BnB and the owner of this property, after this happened.
Rightfully so.
I would agree with you.
Rightfully so, but Airbnb does a really good job of insulating themselves from those types of things, because they're like, it's not our problem. Sue the homeowner. Like, if it had happened to me, I'd have died. Heart attack, dead. But this is one of the funniest, especially the way you read it. It's so wonderful.
Well, it's just like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those,
and it's just these poor women, because it's their 50th high school reunion. So these are women like in their 60s,
well into their 60s.
Just don't even know what to do. What do you do? Do you leave? Like, do you go get a hotel for the night? Like, what did they even do after that? Obviously, some of them had to go to the hospital, make sure they didn't have rabies.
They have to get rabies shots.
Oh my gosh.
If you get bit by a bat, you have to go through a rabies series. I'm almost positive. So yeah.
Oh,
that's why I said
all over my body.
I said, you got to be kidding me. Woo.
Mark my words. This will be a movie in a year to a year and a half.
Or at least a scene in a movie.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, it would fit right in that Netflix series, the Fall of the House of Usher, which I watched on the recommendation of a listener.
It's
get
so
the cast
good.
from 80. Get the cast from 80 for Brady. Put them in here. Just Rita Moreno just taking it out on batches. Like, I got an Academy Award. That's what I got.
That's a great idea.
There's
really our $1 million idea, you guys, right there. We'll write a movie for Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Lily Tomlin fighting off bats.
Sally Field. Throw Diane Keaton in there.
Oh, you got
Candace Bergen. Just put the whole crew in a bat
cameo by Dolly Parton.
Batalicious.
Yeah.
Batalicious.
Batalicious.
Speaking of Batalicious, we only got a couple of minutes left. What did you do with Halloween costumes with the baby?
So we had two. We ended up not doing anything on Saturday. So we went out last night. We just went to dinner, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I decided a while ago that, like, would I be a postpartum mom or would I be the dude from The Big Lebowski? Because both are basically the same. And so I was the dude from Big Lebowski. Mike was Walter, and he actually looked excellent. And then Frankie was a bowling ball. And earlier in the day, she was Daddy's favorite, aka a bottle of ketchup. So that was her earlier. Anyone who knows this show knows that my husband is a big fan of ketchup.
Huge fan of ketchup.
Fan of ketchup. So that was her earlier costume. Then we went as the Big Lebowski for the night, but we didn't really have anywhere to go because trick-or-treating had already happened in our neighborhood. So I was like, all right, well, let's just go out to dinner so like someone sees our costume. So we go to Maxie's, which is like soul food. We walk in, like, no one's really in costume. And I don't think anyone realized we were in costume.
Oh, no, that's the worst.
And I just felt the need. Like, I don't often feel the need to be like, hey, by the way, justifying why we look like this. But I literally felt by the time we left, I told the hostess, I was like, just so you know, like, we're in costume. Like, I don't just dress like a slob, and my husband doesn't just look like a ranger, like a park ranger all the time. Like, we were the Big Lebowski. She's like, oh, that makes more sense. Like, she definitely thought that we just rolled in there and this is how we
Oh,
dressed. And so,
That's beautiful. It just shows how good you were at portraying the characters,
Ooh,
Kristen. You really embodied them.
sure, we'll go with that.
All right. Well, have a great week. We will see you next Wednesday at 10:33. Squeeze the baby, and we will see you soon. All right.
Bye, guys.
Take care, my
Bye.
friends. We have the top of the hour news is coming up next. We will be back right after that. Stay with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.